All right, very good. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to talk about APIs today and especially how it transforms our industry. But before I do so, I would like us all to imagine the following scenario. Imagine if your entire supply chain could operate in real time. There are no more delays, no more manual updates, no more inaccurate data, just seamless real-time communication between your systems, your suppliers, and your customers. Well, that's the power of API, and it really can transform the way businesses interact. To give you an example, think about how you currently check Waldom's inventory levels or maybe the inventory levels of other suppliers. You may rely on updates from spreadsheets or batch EDI transactions that only give you information once a day, or maybe even more likely, you probably check some inventory manually on our website or on the supplier's website. Not very efficient. With APIs, your system can connect directly to your partner systems. You get live updates on things like inventory, think about lead times, pricing, every second of the day. There's no more waiting for manual work or overnight batch updates. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. My name is Jelger. I'm the Global VP of Data and Digital at Waldom Electronics. And together with Talhah, our Global Digital Excellence Manager, we're going to be presenting this webinar today. And I've been in the industry for a little over a decade now, a little over 10 years. And I still love the complexity that this industry brings. Think about the millions of different part numbers that we have to manage, the constantly changing supply chains. But, in today's world, there's a need for more technology, more speed, better accuracy, and more scalability. And I personally feel that our industry is lagging in many of these things. Some of the biggest challenges that we face, like accurate inventory management, efficient order processing, lead time tracking, product information updates, they're still managed through manual Excel spreadsheets, VLOOKUPs, even manual one-by-one updates. Waldom has been working with some of the top companies in our industry to integrate APIs into their operations, making them faster and more efficient. Our goal today is to show you why APIs are the future of this industry. We also compare them to more traditional ways of doing interactions like EDI, and we'll also show Waldom's own API suite, including our inventory and pricing, order management APIs, and more. In the next 20 minutes, we'll cover the fundamentals of APIs. We're going to dive into some real-world use cases, and we'll even give you a live demo of how the API works, show you how easy it is. Talhah is going to share the current API suite that we have and the roadmap, what's coming next in the next couple months. And, by the end of this webinar, I'm pretty sure that you'll see why now is the perfect time to integrate our APIs into your systems. But let's get started with the basics. What exactly is an API? To help explain this, we'll play this short video right here that provides a very simple overview, and this should make it very easy to understand how APIs function in today's business operations. And this should give everyone a very good foundation. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the video. It's about 3 minutes.
Connectivity is an amazing thing. By now, we're all used to the instant connectivity that puts the world at our fingertips. From desktops or devices, we can purchase, post, pin, and pick anything, anywhere. We are connected to the world and each other like never before. But how does it happen? How does data get from here to there? How do different devices and applications connect with each other to allow us to place an order, make a reservation, or book a flight with just a few taps or clicks? The unsung hero of our connected world is the Application Programming Interface, or API. It's the engine under the hood and is behind the scenes that we take for granted, but it's what makes possible all the interactivity we've come to expect and rely upon. But exactly what is an API? It's a question everyone asks. Okay, not really, but we're glad you did. The textbook definition goes something like this. In computer programming, an application programming interface, API, is a set of routines, protocols, and tools for building software applications. An API expresses a software component in terms of its operations, inputs, outputs, and underlying types. Okay, to speak plainly, an API is the messenger that takes requests and tells a system what you want to do, and then returns the response back to you. To give you a familiar example, think of an API as a waiter in a restaurant. Imagine you're sitting at the table with a menu of choices to order from, and the kitchen is the part of the system which will prepare your order. What's missing is the critical link to communicate your order to the kitchen and deliver your food back to your table. That's where the waiter, or API, comes in. The waiter is the messenger that takes your request or order and tells the system, in this case the kitchen, what to do, and then delivers the response back to you, in this case, food. Now that we've whetted your appetite, let's apply this to a real API example. You're probably familiar with the process of searching for airline flights online. Just like at a restaurant, you have a menu of options to choose from. A drop-down menu in this case. You choose a departure city and date, a return city and date, cabin class, and other variables. In order to book your flight, you interact with the airline's website to access the airline's database to see if any seats are available on those dates and what the cost might be based on certain variables. But what if you're not using the airline's website, which has direct access to the information? What if you are using an online travel service that aggregates information from many different airlines? The travel service interacts with the airline's API. The API is the interface that, like your helpful waiter, can be asked by that online travel service to get information from the airline system over the internet to book seats, choose meal preferences, or baggage options. It also then takes the airline's response to your request and delivers it right back to the online travel service, which then shows it to you. So now you can see that it's APIs that make it possible for us all to use travel sites. The same goes for all interactions between applications, data, and devices. They all have APIs that allow computers to operate them, and that's what ultimately creates connectivity. So whenever you think of an API, just think of it as your waiter running back and forth between applications, databases, and devices to deliver data and create the connectivity that puts the world at our fingertips. And whenever you think of creating an API, think MuleSoft.
Great. So as you could see, I actually borrowed this video from the people at MuleSoft. It's a company that specializes in API integrations and providing a platform. But I think it's a really good video to very simply explain what APIs do and actually show that they're actually not that complex. So now that we've covered the basics of how APIs work, let's briefly touch on why they're so important to our industry, because we're not in the airline business. We're selling and redistributing electronic components. So, I don't think I need to explain to anyone on this call the complexity of the order lifecycle, from checking availability to paying an invoice. Implementations of APIs can pretty much cover this whole order lifecycle. I've listed a couple of examples here. So think about inventory and pricing APIs, allowing you to check inventory and pricing real time so that your internal teams can see live inventory and pricing in their ERP system, in their quoting systems, could even be embedded onto your e-commerce systems to make sure that you can show live inventory there. Second option is order processing. There's a lot that goes into order management. Think about an order API, placing an order, making sure an order is processed instantly and accurately. Think about the confirmation sending back to you, any changes to orders, automatically notifying customers of an order status change in real time. Think about advanced shipment notifications the moment we ship something out of the door, providing accurate shipping updates. And invoicing APIs, making sure that we send the right invoice to you and that it's being paid on time. The third one is shipment tracking. Before we always consider the shipment done once it got out of our facility. We're actually now tracking all of the shipments until it's received by our customer. So we can provide real-time shipping updates to enhance transparency all the way to the packets into your facility. Lastly, product information API, especially relevant to suppliers, providing up-to-date information on items like lead times, but you can also think about media files, like images or data sheets, or even parametric search data. All these processes, when automated and handled through APIs, are not only faster, but they're also more reliable, reducing the chance of human error and gives us the ability to actually respond to the customer needs instantly. I want to make it a little bit more hands-on. I'm going to post our API in the chat. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually access our pricing and availability API. So you see a link in the chat now. It looks like a normal web page, and it opens as such. So hopefully everyone can open that link, and it brings you to your browser. You may need to click the pretty print tick box on top of your screen, and then you should see something as I present here on the PowerPoint presentation. That's basically our live pricing and availability API that you have just called. So you've just made your first API call to the Waldom API. The data that you see here is in a format that we call JSON. So this is typically how APIs deliver information. It's a structured way of delivering information. And the beautiful thing here is that it's also readable to us humans. If you compare this to other systems like EDI, very difficult to read. At least I cannot. In our API, you will see a couple of things. You see our stock level. So here you see our stock levels for a specific TE partner or a crimping tool. You see that we have 103 tools available in our EMEA facility. You see it broken out with date codes. So you actually see all the details on the date codes and the country of origins. And on the right-hand side, you see some more information. You see the description, the harmonized tariff codes. You see a data sheet and image link. And on the bottom, you actually see pricing. So this is all with that one simple call. You can see all of that information real time. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Now, this is the same type of information that will be pulled into your ERP or your quoting system if you were using our API. Instantly available. By integrating this into your own systems, you would have automatic updates on Waldom's inventory and our pricing at your fingertips. This will help you and the team make better and faster decisions. Now, you may ask, why would I need to integrate Waldom's inventory in my system? And I'm going to put on my sales hat for a few seconds. I'm not a salesperson, so hopefully I can convince you. But you have to realize that Waldom stocks over 200,000 unique products. Our inventory is valued over $500 million. All of that inventory we offer at low MOQs. And the best thing is that most of that inventory, the vast majority of that inventory, is complementary to your scope. So think about it this way. If you integrate Waldom's inventory API, you're basically giving your sales team, your purchasing team, your asset team, access to so much more inventory than you have yourself, enabling a lot of opportunities on the purchasing side and on the sales side. So I think it's very interesting, and this is the low-hanging fruit, in my opinion. Now, enough selling of the Waldom model. Let's dive into some of the intricacies of API. And let's compare it to some of the alternatives. You see it on the slide here. Most of the distributors and the suppliers in our industry, they already have existing EDI connections to do some of these things that we're talking about. So, of course, one of the questions we often get is, how does API differ from EDI? And why would we switch to APIs? Why would we invest resources when EDI has been working just fine over all the last couple of years? And it's a valid concern, but the truth is, EDI has been reliable in most instances. It has a lot of limitations, especially in today's environment, fast-paced, real-time environment. APIs offer significant advantages: speed, flexibility, scalability, cost-effectiveness. EDI simply cannot match all of those areas. But let me explain the differences a little bit better. And this is actually an analogy that I stole from a lady, an industry expert, Laura Shui. She's an e-commerce marketing manager at Texas Instruments. And she said, Think about EDI like using a mailman to send your letter. You prepare the message, you put it in an envelope, you wait for the mailman to come by at a set time, and then the mailman follows a very specific route to deliver that letter. The process takes time. I mean, the mailman can only pick it up and deliver letters at certain times of the day. And if there's an issue with the letter, like you put on a wrong address, for instance, you may not know about it until much later. And the last part is everything must follow a standardized format. Just like mailing a letter, it requires specific rules for post-its and addresses. Now think of APIs as sending an email. Instead of waiting for the mailman, you can send your message instantly with just one click. It arrives immediately in the recipient's inbox, and you get a quick response. If there's a mistake, you'll find it out right away. And you can even track whether the email was delivered or it was opened. With APIs, data exchange happen in real time, and there's much more flexibility in what you can send and how you can send it. So to recap, EDI is like using a mailman. You're working with scheduled deliveries, slower processing, standardized formats. APIs, on the other hand, is like sending an email. They're instant, flexible, cheaper, and can happen whenever you need. Now, I do want to make a side note here. I mean, in the short term, if you still feel more comfortable doing certain processes via EDI, we will support this for the years to come. So we will still be supporting EDI, but I really think API is the future. APIs are not without their challenges, though. I mean, one of the main obstacles in our industry is the lack of standard API format. So EDI benefits from some industry-wide standardizations. APIs are highly customizable. On the one hand, this flexibility allows us to tailor APIs to specific needs, but in theory, the lack of standardization means that each implementation may require unique development, testing, monitoring. But I'm not sure if anyone on the call has worked with EDI before, but although there is a standard, everyone applies the standard in their own unique little way, making every integration unique as well. And it's even more complex to set up. So to me, the key difference is that APIs offer greater ease of implementation, real-time communication, and long-term scalability, making it more advantageous for operational efficiency. I'm not going to pause here. I'm going to hand it over to Talhah, our Digital Excellence Manager, to show the current suite of API products and our roadmap.
Yeah, thanks, Jelger. So as mentioned, I'll be sharing with you today regarding Waldom's API suite and our developer portal available through our website. See, our goal with the Waldom API suite is to provide a one-stop solution for all API offerings from Waldom. Essentially, this will be a self-service platform that enables any customer to easily connect with our APIs and integrate them into your system. So let's explore this further. Right, so you can access the Waldom API suite from any regional version of your website. As an example, today I'll be using our Waldom EMEA site. So simply scroll down to the support section of the site and you'll find the link to our Waldom API suites. Now you will land to the page on itself. So as you can see, we have two offerings within our Waldom API suite. First is the Store API suite, which includes all the APIs related to order management. And secondly, we have the Inventory and Pricing API suite, which you could use to access real-time inventory and pricing data. And if you scroll further down, you'll find a section called Getting Started with Waldom API. As you can see, all the steps are outlined here, and it's pretty much simple. So first, you need to ensure that you have an account set up with Waldom and you're logged in. Next, you need to request for your API key and manage your API settings. So you can assume an API key. It's like a unique password for an account. You'll need this key to access our APIs. What you can do is just simply click on the Generate API key, and you'll receive your key instantly, right? So perhaps at any point that you feel like your API key is compromised, you can always regenerate the API key itself. Now, since we've already logged in, we have our API key, we can move forward to our API developer portal, which includes all the comprehensive documentation of our API itself. Right. So as you land to the developer portal, you'll see the getting started page. So basically, these are all the steps that we have reviewed earlier. We also provide you a sandbox environment. So a sandbox environment, it's like a test environment where your team can safely test the APIs without affecting any live processes or data. It ensures that you will have the confidence to move forward with the full implementation. And let's have a look at the Store API suite. So the first API offerings underneath this is the Order Create API, which will allow you to create or place an orders directly to Waldom. And as you can see, we try to provide as detailed information as we can to ensure that all your questions are answered as you try to set up the connection with us. Next, we have the Order Retrieve API, which allows you to retrieve the status and detailed information about your orders. We also have the Advanced Ship Notice API, which allows you to retrieve shipment tracking information of your orders. And finally, for the Store API suite, we have the Invoice Retrieve API. And you can use this to retrieve payment information, and also actually allows you to download the PDF copies of the invoices itself. The next one we have is the Inventory and Pricing API suite. So this is basically the same as the test that you have done together with Jelger just now, where you can retrieve real-time inventory and pricing information. See, our goal is to make the application of Waldom APIs as easy as possible. We recognize one of the challenges we face today is the inconsistencies of part number format usage across distributors. So to address this, we have implemented a feature that actually allows you to use your own internal part numbers or customer part numbers when using our APIs to search for the inventory and pricing information. Simply provide us with a list of your internal part numbers, and we'll ensure that they are stored in our system, making your searches much easier and more accurate. Next, on the developer portal, we have our API terms and use. So basically, this outlines the terms to govern your use of Waldom APIs. Some example is we have restrictions on publishing Waldom's inventory to any manufacturer's website. And we also outline some rules of engagement on how a distributor may publish or share Waldom's inventory to third-party aggregators. We also have some other terms that are clearly outlined here in this section itself. And finally, we have our support section. So if you have any questions, face difficulties in setting up the API itself, or just some suggestions, right, on how Waldom can improve our API offerings, feel free to reach us at apisupport@waldom.com. Now let's go back to our slides. So I'm going to touch a bit about the upcoming features that we're working on. So looking ahead, we are currently developing our push APIs, which are designed to send updates directly to your system without the need for manual requests. For an example, let's use push order API. So rather than checking the status of an order, our system will push updates to you automatically as your order changes status from waiting approval to process, and for example, from process to preparing for shipment. So this will ensure real-time synchronization of the order status between our system. Another example would be the push inventory and pricing API. So anytime there's a change in Waldom's inventory, you'll receive real-time updates. So there will be no need for you to keep refreshing or checking the inventory yourself. And finally, as we aim to be a self-service portal, this push functionality will be added to the API access and services page where we explored earlier to retrieve our API key. So now, as a user, you can choose and select which API services you want this feature to be enabled for. Right, that's everything from me today regarding the Waldom API suite, and we look forward to having a team utilizing our API offerings. I'll hand it back over to Jelger.
Awesome, sounds good. So for the sake of time, Talhah, this is going to be my closing slide here, just to wrap up. So how to get started? You know, the first step is to talk to your development team. If you have a development team internally, I'm 100% sure they will be familiar with how to integrate APIs into your existing systems. Now, I hear you think, you know, can we even integrate APIs into our 40-year-old ERP system? Well, you know, some of our systems are more than 2 decades old, and we can integrate APIs into those systems. So I'm actually not too concerned about it. I think they'll manage. Now, another alternative is to reach out to some implementer companies that can help you with these integrations. One example, very specific to our industry, is OrbReaver. It's a company that has a suite of products designed to convert almost any data type into an API. They can help you integrate APIs into all of your systems without a need to bother your own development team or to set up your own development team. You know, start small, think big. A business case is important because your IT team probably already has a long backlog of probably very interesting projects to work on. So, you know, if you're not 100% sure how to build your business case, work with us, work with the Waldom team to build your business case. We have done this with many distributors and suppliers already. So we are happy to see how this best fits your business needs. So I would say, if you're interested after this webinar and you're ready to start, or you're not sure where to start, reach out to your Waldom representative. Feel free to contact me directly or Talhah, or contact one of the recommended integration partners like OrbReaver. They're also available to provide expert assistance in building out your API ecosystem. I know we're right on the clock here. That's basically all we wanted to share today. We hope we got you a little excited for our API suite, and we hope we can work with you to see how we can embed the 200,000 plus partners into your system to give you access to more than $500 million of inventory to enable your sales team and your procurement team to see that inventory. I'm going to pause here and open it up for a few questions. And I think you can add them into the Q&A section. There's a Q&A section that you can find on the top where you can ask your questions. So we have a question here. Can I integrate all of your lines? So it's a good question. So we do have restrictions for specific manufacturers. Specific manufacturers only allow us to sell to authorized distributors. It's not the case in all regions. It's not the case for every manufacturer. But of course, we do stick to the rules of engagement that we have with our manufacturers. So this is something we have to review on a case-by-case basis. So again, there I would say reach out to your Waldom representative, and we'll figure out which lines you can and cannot integrate into your system. Good question. Another question, how secure are the APIs? As Talhah showed, every single API connection that we have uses a unique API key. So that means that that's kind of your unique password in order to access the APIs. So this is something to ensure that not everyone can use the same API, not everyone can place orders on your behalf or get order statuses on your behalf. So it's really secure with that API key. Yeah. Very good. I see one more coming in. What should we do if we don't have a development team? Yeah, so that's kind of what I touched upon earlier. If you don't have a development team, there are integration partners out there. We have worked with Orbriver ourselves on various projects, and that would be my first recommendation. Reach out to Orbriver. We will send out some more details in the thank you email after this webinar with the contact details, and they can help you to start your integration without setting up your development team. It's a pretty good option, I feel. All right, I'm gonna do the last one, and then we're gonna drop off. Or I have two more. Will digitalization change the market position of players in the electronic industry? More direct business will be easier to manage. It's an interesting question, you know. Will distributors still be relevant? Is there more direct business to manage? You see some suppliers. I see this specifically on the semiconductor side, where the suppliers like Texas Instruments, they develop their own API suite, and they now interact a lot more with the end customers as well. But, you know, in the distribution channel, there are distributors for a reason. A supplier doesn't hold much inventory. They don't provide lower MOQs. So I do always see a need for distributors to be there. Is it going to change the position of players? I would say if you don't adapt to this real-time collaborative sharing of data, I think you're gonna fall behind. And that's why I'm urging everyone to investigate and set up your API strategy as soon as you can, especially now the market is a little bit more down. This is a perfect time to do it. The moment the market picks up again, you want to make sure that you don't have to hire twice the amount of people, but that you can have your processes, your systems do the work for you. How does it work with special pricing for different distributors? I mean, each API is basically sourcing from the custom pricing for each of the distributors. So if we have custom pricing set up for a distributor, let's say you're authorized or unauthorized, we have some differentiated pricing there, then that's taken into account in the API. So that pricing is the same as if you were to log into our website. So that's all custom based on your API key. That's our unique identifier. All right, I'm gonna do the last one as well, and then we're gonna drop off. Do we get help for issues during the API setup? This is where Talhah shared the API support mailbox. So we monitor that constantly. We want to make sure that you have a great experience setting up the API. We have people available in the regions that can jump on a call with your development team to iron out some of the issues that you have. So we have a very personalized support process there. It all starts with you reaching out to Waldom and you're asking us to help through that support mailbox. How accurate is the information? I'm going to do one more. How accurate, because this is an interesting one. How accurate is the information? Pricing and specifically lead times. You know, I wish it was very accurate in terms of the lead times, but we also rely on the data that we get from our suppliers. Now, I can tell you that our inventory and our pricing is reliable. We can stand behind it because that's something we have in our own control. So if that's not accurate, we can fix it really quickly, but I dare to put my hand in the fire to say it's accurate. Lead times, you know, if we don't have inventory available, we rely on the lead time from the supplier. And unfortunately, in the IP&E side of the industry, there are not that many suppliers that have automatic lead time updates just yet. So this is also kind of an ask for help from our suppliers to give us an API that gives us live API updates so that we can also integrate that back into our distributors. But it's a good question, how accurate are lead times? Well, we've seen it the last couple of years, not that accurate, but luckily most of the business that we do is based on our inventory, and that inventory is accurate. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Appreciate everyone's time. Appreciate everyone staying on a little bit longer than expected. We will send out a thank you email with some additional information and some follow-up actions. But hopefully this was insightful, and hopefully you got inspired to do more with APIs. Take care, everyone.